Without trying to pander to the occasion, I really, really love choral music. I'll just say that. I love choirs. So I've loved choirs so much that I've sung in a few. I even joined an Anglican church in the UK just so I could get into the choir, because I knew it to be good and the people in it rather nice. And so it satisfied a kind of aesthetic need for beauty, musical beauty, and a social need for community. It's hard not to love choral music. It's a perfect metaphor, really, for the project that is called religion. Many voices singing different notes, fully expressing their individual voice, bound by broad but yet very firm parameters of harmonics, timbre, tempo, producing beauty. Essentially, laws of harmony, harmonics, are mathematical relationships between notes that please the hearer's ear, the beauty of which has the ring of revealed truth, beauty which has the feel of natural justice. Out of many voices, a real oneness in diversity. And of course, in the Enlightenment, it was believed that earthly music reflected the heavenly music of the spheres, so-called, as was expressed in the poem and the reading today. And from inside a choir, for the individual chorister, you sublimate your individuality for the reward of being swept up in something larger than yourself. And paradoxically, you experience the singing of your individual part not as a limitation, but as an expansion of yourself. And again, that's a feeling we'd associate with religion. So it's no wonder that choral music in various types and shapes and sizes has been linked to worship in all religious traditions since time began. If only all the world were a choir. If only we could all agree on the laws that would produce harmonious relationship, and under wise guidance like Margaret's, join as one voice, one vox humana, making concord out of discord. In a way, a choir is a lot like a church. A choir, like a church, is a self-selected group of people who broadly agree on what constitutes harmony. Inside a Unitarian church, even a church as broad as this, we can for a time experience concord, order, harmony. We find comfort in the solace of like minds and values. And so we're not, as a result of that, exposed to wildly discordant voices. A church, like a choir, is thus a kind of conclave and a sanctuary that effectively stops our ears to opposing tastes and opposing values that circulate freely in the world out there. Out there is cacophony. In here, broadly, is only harmony. And for a religion, that's the rub. Today's occasion, a happy occasion, of the Terrace Singers' 21st anniversary, has led me to think about how far our much vaunted principle of tolerance can travel outside these walls. I've really been struggling lately with what tolerance really means in practice once we step outside those doors, how we hold fast to that self-evidently good value of tolerance, and yet how we engage with the discord, the bum notes, the tone deafness, when we engage with the world at large. And before we get too carried away with choir as a metaphor for religion, we should remember the sausage. Like choral music, everybody loves a sausage, but nobody wants to see how it's made. Music is hard work. The lovely product is the result of an awfully unlovely process, at least in my musical experience, that requires the choir to deal with bum notes and tone deafness in quest of harmony. I remember from my chorister days that there were 3 options that a choir director had. The choice depended on how seriously the choir balanced harmonic beauty with social relationship and which one it valued more. The first choice, obviously, is to just ignore the bum notes. Do not confront the tone deaf. Sublimate the musical perfection of the choir to the social fellowship of the choir. Now, this might produce discordant music, and it may not win new members with sensitive musical ears, but everybody will get along. And that's a good thing. Here, in that kind of option, tolerance is absolute. Absolute tolerance, and it means let's ignore discord. This has always seemed to me to be a kind of fool's paradise, though. The choir will get along, but few will want to come listen and perhaps join. Tolerance like this, absolute tolerance like this, always seems to be some evidence of political failure. We can't do anything about your ears. Do what you will. We'll just have to put up with it. Or, on the other hand, another choice is you might not accept bum notes at all and maybe eject the offending tone-deaf member. Now this would probably produce the best, most harmonious music, though at some social cost. This would have to be intolerance, based on aesthetic reasons, of course, but intolerance nonetheless. People's sensibilities don't align, singers have a different sense of what the tempo is, and so, since a choir and a church are self-selecting groups, discord can be eliminated within the group, and harmony of a kind reigns. But is this, again, not a fool's paradise? Should abstract notions of musical perfection rule over our human need to form ourselves into groups? Should beauty in music, and by extension, comfort in worship, be superior to the internal social functions of these projects? Does harmony trump fellowship? Or a third option. How many of you are or have been teachers out there? I thought so. The choir director might work to identify and fix the bum notes and educate the tone deaf, thereby, yes, imposing their will, their musical and social tastes on the members. Now, this is tolerance of a different sort. It's not absolute, it's a kind of negotiated tolerance. You accept the perceived flaws, but at the same time work patiently and intently to change them. If you're a teacher, accepting your students doesn't mean putting up with ignorance. You can hate the sin but love the sinner. You can rewrite the arrangement if you're a choir director and reassign parts to work within the individual's limitations with a hope that, gradually, eventually, they'll get it and improve. This is tolerance, not absolute, but with a purpose. I tolerate your right to your own sense of the note, but I will gently challenge and confront and work to change it so that you sing on our terms. I found that in the Anglican choir I belonged in, that I couldn't hide the fact that I didn't fit into the larger church which contained the choir. I didn't take communion. It sort of stuck out. It was cut short when one Sunday the vicar just had enough of me not taking communion, pulled me aside, and demanded that I take communion. And I had so far been singing just for the beauty and the social practice, but my lack of social practice in the larger sphere of the church would no longer avail, so I opted out, which was rather a shame. I enjoyed it. They go on, as they had for hundreds of years, without me, and I without them, and that's fine, that's life. Maybe this was karma. I got some form with this sort of thing. I have a long history with music. I worked my way through university, through undergraduate school, in part by playing in a band. We got rather good in the late 70s, if you consider late 70s music good at all. And we had lots of gigs, and we're beginning to think that this might just go somewhere. One member of the group, however, whose musical skills we deemed inferior to ours, was an enthusiastic but rather noisome guitar player that just didn't get the smooth sound we were aiming for. We had played together, by the way, for years, since we were kids, really. But no, now things were getting serious. So we called a meeting, and we fired him. He cried his eyes out, so uncomfortable. I mean, just begged us not to be let go, but we held firm to our musical values. No, it wouldn't do. So he left, and the ironic thing is, largely out of spite, he got really good and is the only professional musician today. But that, on the other hand, is another sermon. That's not this sermon. It's a different sermon.